One of the first things I was surprised to find out is that Logitech, the accessories company, is actually getting into the gaming experience. This is the Logitech G Cloud. It's a big emphasis on the word cloud in this experience because this is intended to be used with, let's say, Xbox cloud gaming service, using it with GeForce Now, or even using it as a Steam Link to your PC to leverage the horsepower off the system. Meaning, because it doesn't really do a lot of the processing on device, the 6,000 milliampere battery with the 1080p resolution display that we have in here should be able to last you 12 hours as advertised by this company. So today we're going to talk about what can you do with it, can you run games on it, and of course, what about emulation? Since this is technically running a mid-range processor, can it handle emulation like some of the other offerings that we have on our flagship devices? This is TK, and this is the G Cloud from Logitech. Let's talk about it, and of course, let me share with you guys what I liked and I did not like about this device. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So this is the actual package. For the most part, you're getting the actual controller, or the actual system itself. It's pre-assembled. There's nothing really to put together. You get a USB charger, or say a USB-A charger connected to basically a US plug, and of course a USB-A to USB-C cable to get it charged. Although for the most part, you can use any PD charger and it should be able to work for you fine. So as you can see here, cloud gaming handheld made by Logitech itself. As far as the specifications, we have the Snapdragon 720G as the processor. It's not listed here, but that's the processor. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is the connectivities that we have in here. It's a 7-inch 1080p 60 frames per second resolution multi-touch. It's an IPS panel. As far as stereo, we have dual microphones and dual speakers, obviously for stereo speakers, 3.5mm headphone jack, as well as Bluetooth and USB-C, or USB-C obviously audio. And I'm going to explain a little bit why I'm excited about that, because I've been using USB-C as the audio source for me. As far as the battery, it's a 6,000 milliampere battery, and of course rechargeable. We have a USB-C charging port, and that's obviously powered by Android, and well, it's Android version 11, running with a custom gaming launcher that's built in here. We'll get a chance to check it out. Now, I didn't mention to you guys that the console with the charger and the actual cable are the only things that comes in the box. I did actually pick up a carrying case. This is available, obviously, to be able to use with it. I did take the sticker that was included in the box with the G Cloud, and I put it on top, so this is not an official case. But it's a case you're able to basically get that will house and, of course, give you the ability of adding additional things in here. First and foremost, obviously your cables and everything kind of goes in here, and I've been also using, these are the Soundcore VR P10. This is a pair of buds that were actually released not that long ago that utilize the power of USB-C, which means the ability of using a dongle to be able to connect to a system and providing us low latency whenever it comes to gaming. And of course, this is very important when we're talking about cloud gaming, with latency could be a concern. So first and foremost, I've been using them with this, or of course using the stereo speakers, which is definitely very nice. There's some compartments here if you'd like to be able to put your SD cards, if you have multiple options that you'd like to use. But last but not least, of course, we have the system. Very easy, very simple. You put that in there, and when you're ready, when you're not using it, you can close it and take it with you, and now it's nicely protected. And of course, provides us, there's a couple of options. I think there's a black color and a white color of the case. The sticker itself, as I mentioned, came with the actual G Cloud. It was in the box. Now, when it comes to the system itself, it's pretty straightforward. We have a 7-inch 1080p resolution display in here. This is basically running at about 450 nits. As I talked to you guys, we have a custom, well, controllers basically on the right and left of it. We have the two microphones that are positioned on the right and on the left to be able to pick up our audio right away. On the top, we have two, basically a right R1, R2, and L1 and L2 triggers on the top, depending on the games that you're playing. We have an SD card slot that's present right here on the top right. And then, of course, here you can insert your SD card to add additional games and, of course, move the content to it. The storage on the system is about 64 gigs of internal storage, so there's not a lot of options, but you're able to use its SD card up to a terabyte to be able to expand that storage. Next to it, we have a turn on button. This is basically the power on button to basically wake up or put the display to sleep. We have a volume rocker, of course, and on the left side, we have a joystick similar to the right, and basically a X, Y, A, B, of course, button on the right with the directional gamepad. A G button here that wicks the display text directly into the gaming system. And of course, I actually already have a pin here because as you can imagine, this is running Android, so it gets us the ability of putting in some of the Android functionalities. On the bottom, we have a USB-C charging data as well as audio port if you'd like to use USB-C audio. And of course, the two bottom firing speakers that give us stereo speakers. Last but not least is a headphone jack to be able to use wired audio, because this again is going to be all about latency. So the lower the latency, the better the performance. On the back, nothing much, no access to the battery itself. Again, it is housing a 6,000 milliampere battery, and we do have a textured material here on the grips so that when you're holding it, it actually feels very solid. Now, in essence, this is really trying to mimic an Xbox controller reference, because that's pretty much where it originally was supposed to be. Basically, the design, you'll notice the black and white color. The design looks very much like an Xbox controller. Waking up the display, pretty straightforward. Pressing A, and of course at this point put in your PIN. And then once you have that in, of course, we'll go back home. It gives you access directly to the launcher. Now, there is a couple of options in here. You can use it in tablet mode, which will basically make it look like a standard Android tablet, and pressing the gaming button will take you directly into this interface, which essentially is the custom, basically the G Cloud launcher. You have access directly to application. You have options at the top, basically your profile account. You can look into messages. Messages essentially is a shortcut for your notification, access to your album, for gallery, and of course into settings. The reason why I'm going in here because I want to show you guys real quick what we have as far as options. Now, first and foremost, you'll notice here we have wireless LAN access. Just for reference, this is touch enabled as well as directional enabled. So we have Bluetooth here, again, airplane mode for turning on whenever we're traveling. Display options to be able to turn on the display brightness and adaptability. The theme, you have the option of changing a couple of different options in there. Sound, of course, battery level at this point it is 57%, and of course language and date, and controller if you need to remap any of the specific buttons. Accessibility, system update, I did actually receive 2 updates since I've received it, since it's been out for some time. Device information, pretty straightforward. You can see here percentage, the model number, and of course the uptime, how long we've had it running. And of course, we can switch it over to tablet mode if you want to be able to switch over the interface. Again, it just looks like a standard Android tablet at that point. I like this interface because it just keeps it in that mode. Under more settings, takes us directly into what the Android standard configuration is. You'll notice that this is what essentially the standard menu of settings in here. You're able to go in there and customize. This is in case you, let's say you want to insert and use an SD card. So you can go ahead into storage option. And here you'll be able to see the SD card. And if you want to eject it, this will be where you'll be able to do that. The B button is always going to work as a back button, so you can always just X back, 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 and it takes you back home. The interface is pretty straightforward. You get most recent application that you ran in here. Scrolling all the way to the right, you have access to the app drawer, so that's all of the apps that we have installed. I am going to talk to you guys a little bit about PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile, as well as basically Undead Horde. Those are games that I downloaded directly from the Google Play Store, so they are not cloud-based games, but they are games that you're able to download. Again, limited by the 64 gigs of internal storage. The other thing I did here is I did install Netflix, which was not preloaded onto the system. Google Play services, as well as the Google Play Store, was built into the system. So it does come with Google Play services in case you want to download. And it was preloaded with, let's go ahead and go in here. It has Steam Link pre-installed. GeForce Now was also installed. The Xbox Cloud game, as well as the standard Xbox game, was installed with the Google Play with Google services, basically YouTube Music, Gmail, and so on. Since you do need to set it up with a Google account when you're first setting up the account, and of course accessing the Google Play Store is pretty straightforward. Access to pretty much a standard version of the Google Play Store. Now, if I scroll over to the right, I have cloud gaming, and again, there are other options as well. We're also going to talk about the PPSSPP, which is for emulation, and we'll talk about that a little bit. As I mentioned, the processor that we have in here is the Snapdragon 720G. It is a gaming processor, but it is a mid-range gaming processor, which means when we start talking about basically performance, let's go ahead and look into, let's go ahead into Geekbench. One thing to also keep in mind is that the system forces us to run basically one game at a time, or one app at a time. So although we have multiple options in here, every time we run something, it always closes the previous version. So in this situation, I did run the benchmark before. I'm not going to let you guys waste too much time. Pretty straightforward, 525, basically a single core, and 1564 on multi-core when we're looking at basically standard CPU benchmark, and 1186 on the OpenCL for computing, basically for Geekbench compute options. So overall, mid-ranger should be pretty decent, and because it's leveraging the cloud functionality, all the horsepower that we're talking about as far as running the game is focused on somewhere, basically run on another server. And the biggest thing that we need to focus on this is that we need to make sure that this has great internet. And what that means essentially is that we need to make sure that you have a very fast download and upload. Download to be able to obviously download the content to be able to play it, but also upload speed is very important because that's how you show the connection. Everything you do on the system when you're connected to a cloud game system is mimicked on the server. So anything that slows you down will automatically make this a very bad experience. So overall, as you can see here, at 529 down, about 40 up. Now on the go, I was using it with a T-Mobile 5G hotspot that also gave me pretty good connection. So the overall performance, essentially, if you're on mobile and you're able to share a 5G connection from your phone or a hotspot, you should be pretty much set. And if you're at home, you need to make sure that you have a connection of at least 20 up, and of course, somewhere between 40 to 60 down, but anything over that would be icing. For me, I was rated to be able to run about 100 megabits down, and of course 40 up, which is definitely very nice. We talked about everything as far as connection. On the top here, we have the option of being able to open, close, check update, and of course uninstall applications. And it's pretty much the same here on the left side when you're playing the app, when you're running an application. You're also obviously able to customize these buttons depending on what you're doing and depending on the system that you're using. So overall, let's go ahead and open up real quick the cloud gaming game. Let's go ahead and open up cloud gaming from Microsoft. This is a beta app, but it runs really nice. And though, of course, some of the biggest things that you're able to do here is obviously run all of their cloud-based games. Now, you can basically just leverage all of the horsepower that you have in there, and that's the benefit. And some of the games I've been playing is Injustice 2, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Forza Horizon 5, Fortnite, of course, Halo Infinite, Garden Warfare, as opposed to Modern Warfare, and of course, we have Power Rangers and other games that you're able to run. That's the biggest leveraging process here. Because we're using the cloud-based system, it runs very, very nicely. And of course, let's go ahead and just launch this one. I'm going to say here, let's get ready. And say, of course, we do need a controller. It is connected. All of this stuff that we're looking at right now is all running in the cloud directly on Microsoft system. And this is where, again, the 720 doesn't really need to do that much to be able to run any of these experiences. And that's the biggest benefit here. Now, as you can see there with the gaming experience, everything is really responsive. The colors, everything, the touch controls, the audio, the playback, everything looks absolutely fantastic. The gaming does not miss a beat. And of course, one of the biggest things that you can do with this is, of course, just enjoy the game in either listening to it directly with the speakers, or you can use the headphones that I was sharing with you guys at the beginning, those basically the VR10s from Soundcore that enable us to actually enjoy the gaming experience remotely without having to have any latency. And what essentially that means is with these controllers, all we have to do basically is just connect this to the bottom, and there is a little bit of an indicator at the bottom. So all I need to do here essentially is put it in, and because this is configured in a way where it does not block the USB-C port, I'm still able to charge through this even though I'm using them. As you can see here, there's a little bit of a light indicating the connection. This system, because it's based on Android 11, does support audio over USB-C. Again, either you're using it as a wired headset or a wireless. You could basically customize them using an app. You can download it directly in here. This is, again, at its core, an Android 11 device, so you're able to customize them, change the color on the actual buds themselves, and of course, customize the experience. Because of the dongle, we're running on a 2.4 gigahertz, or basically an equivalent of Wi-Fi directly for the earbuds themselves, providing us that lower latency from using Bluetooth. This system does support Bluetooth and a wired connection, but this is a good compromise between the two to give us low latency and wireless solution at the same time. And one thing I also like about it is that the case itself that comes with them does include also a space for the little dongle, so you're able to put it in there, and when you're not using it, you close it and it basically stays directly with you. Now, the one thing I will say though, that we do not have video output. I know this is a lot of people are familiar with the Steam Deck. Steam Deck does support video output using the USB-C. This one does not. So audio, charging, data transfer, yes. Video output, unfortunately, we do not have that. So again, running Android or running basically Netflix, you're able to watch content on them, movies and so on. Now, although it actually starts off by looking at it as if we're looking at it in this format, this is pretty much the experience. Once you're launching a movie, you start watching it. We'll notice that the video itself plays normally. You're able to stretch in, stretch out. Of course, if we press the home button, because we're running on Android 11, of course, we have picture-in-picture, and that actually does carry over. And you're able to watch a content if you, let's say, browsing or doing something else. Unfortunately, because of the way the system is designed, if I try to run any other application, it will close Netflix because that's how the design is. Indicators at the top are pretty much straightforward. Battery percentage, you need to turn that on, but the battery is in there. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connection, and of course, the time. As far as the other gaming systems that we have in here, again, we have xCloud, as I mentioned to you guys there. We also have, of course, GeForce Now. That's basically one of the other options that is definitely one of the benefits of having a cloud-based system. So we'll go ahead and launch this one. Now, this one will basically give you access to the games that you have connected depending on the systems. So like Cyberpunk for me installed in there. I have Apex Legends in there as well. And you're able to run them. And essentially, again, it's leveraging the power of the basically NVIDIA servers. And I will have to say, since their launch, the NVIDIA servers have definitely gotten a lot faster. So leveraging a really good experience. So between NVIDIA, both the GeForce Now and the xCloud, I think you're pretty much set on almost everything and anything that you need. But they don't stop there, and that's, I think, where the benefit comes in. They also feature the ability of using Steam Link. So if you use Steam, if you have a Steam library of applications like I do, this is definitely going to be one of the better options, as I'm showing you guys right there. And what I really love about this is that this doesn't require any kind of cloud service, because this is, again, the part of this where both the GeForce Now and the, of course, the Xbox Cloud leverages using a cloud-based service. So meaning the service or the horsepower is being run on servers outside of your home, meaning I need internet access. This doesn't necessarily need internet access as much as it actually needs a good Wi-Fi connection at home so that you're able to connect to your PC. An example you can see right there, I was running Cyberpunk 2077 from my desktop PC, running obviously my 3080 Ti video card, and of course a fully fledged PC system that can basically leverage all of this. And as you can see here, TK Ryzen, it's running a Ryzen processor, and it leverages all the horsepower from there. And any game that I have installed, like Doom, I also have obviously Apex Legend. I also have a few other games, Dragon Ball Fighter Z. All of those games will run perfectly on here because again, the 720 in the system isn't really being taxed. It's more so done on the Wi-Fi section. Once you launch the Steam Link on your device, connect it over to your PC, the display on your PC will be mirrored directly on the actual unit. Now, one thing I will mention is I have a 49-inch ultra-wide display, and that's why the video is showcasing a little bit of a more of a pillar boxing when you're looking at Cyberpunk 2077, because that's how I actually get a chance to play it on my PC, and this is what you're getting here. One thing we'll probably say is if you format or you change the resolution on your PC, that definitely will work. And if you're running more of a traditional, let's say 32-inch or 27-inch, you're not going to have any problem. And of course, the 16:9 aspect ratio on the G Cloud will work perfectly fine for you guys. I think that's the biggest benefit there. So how's it been really using it at home and on the go? At home, not a problem at all. The Wi-Fi connection I have here is pretty solid. I have a pretty good coverage at home here. And I think this is, for the most part, the best solution for me. If I'm sitting at home, if I want to go outside and sit on the couch, play, if I'm in bed and I want to just play a little bit and I have my earbuds in there, it works really nice. The VR10s that I talked to you guys about from Soundcore are really more focused towards gaming. So these work really good with a gaming system. So either the Steam Deck or obviously something like this, like the G Cloud, you're getting that low latency with the wireless solution where we typically don't get that with most wireless buds. There's always going to be a little bit of a delay. Now, I did show you guys at the beginning that there's a couple of games in there that we talked about. Obviously, we're talking about PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile. And one of the biggest things I'll probably say is this. The games run, the games install, there's no problem there. The concern obviously is the mapping of the controllers. The controllers on this are not compatible with those two games, meaning if I wanted to play either Call of Duty Mobile or PUBG Mobile, I actually have to use this like a tablet and my fingers have to kind of cross over. So this is really not meant for that. If you're buying this just to be able to play those type of games, I think your smartphone or any other tablet would probably do you maybe a better experience. This is really trying to leverage games that are optimized for the controllers, like Undead Horde that I was talking to you guys about. That one by default does support controllers. It'll almost support any controller, and it ran really nicely. Now, the good thing is I was able to run it here directly on the system because I downloaded it from the Google Play Store, but I can also leverage the power of my device here on my PC because I also have Undead Horde on my Steam library. So this is where you kind of are able to kind of flex a little bit between what you can and cannot do with this system. Now, when it comes down to emulation, I will probably say that, again, keep in mind this is a 720 mid-range processor. It will do emulation very nicely depending on the system that you're using. I did test it out with some of the older generation ones, obviously PSP games in there, and it worked really nicely. The biggest thing I would probably say is it's not a flagship processor, so I don't think it's going to be able to emulate some of the more recent systems, so just keep that in mind when you're thinking about those things. At the end of the day, for what you get here this is very much focused on cloud gaming. The storage on here, although it's limited to 64 gigs, really isn't that big of an issue. For the most part, once you download the Google Play services and of course the ROM installation, you're left around 40 gigabytes of space. Now, I downloaded again Netflix and Undead Horde, and of course PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile, but for those I'm going to uninstall since they don't really run well. But for the most part, you're really not going to use too much. And if you need to expand the storage, again, we're able to put in up to 1 terabyte of an SD card sitting here that you're able to add additional content on there, either media or so on that you can actually leverage. So if you have let's say a music library or some videos that you want to be able to load there, this is going to work perfectly fine. Content consumption that's based on the cloud, it's going to work great. You can watch Netflix, Hulu, Disney, HBO Max. All of those streaming services are going to work great because that's exactly what this is leveraging there. So that's for that purpose alone, I will probably say this is exactly what this is for. It's based on the cloud and it's meant to run cloud-based things. If you're going to run things locally, you're going to definitely tax the system a little bit more. Battery will definitely drain a little bit more. But if you're running it pretty much as a cloud, you should be able to get between somewhere at 10 to 12 hours worth of gameplay. And for the most part, really, I haven't been able to kill the battery in any single session. The battery just lasts forever. 6,000 milliampere with a 720p, well, the 720G gaming processor and a 1080p resolution display with 60 frames per second is a really good combination for an extended gaming use. The speakers are very nice. They don't get the very loudest, but they definitely give us a good definition audio. And because it's positioned down, it's kind of facing closer to us, so it kind of gives us a little bit of that immersive sound. The headphone jack's obviously going to be the best solution, and a wired USB-C option will be the better option. The VR10s that I showed you guys, they play well, they really do very nice, and they're a good option if you'd like to stay with more of a wireless solution but get that low latency and not block that USB-C port for charging, which means I can actually plug in a cable directly and get that extended gaming session. It doesn't get that hot because, again, the 720G is not a very hot processor, and overall performance, because you're holding it on the outer rim part of the actual system, even if there is any kind of heat issue, it never actually bothers you because you're not touching it there. The display never got hot for me in any of my gaming sessions. I would probably say the only issues or the only areas where I found that there was some concerns essentially is where the internet wasn't running that well. So when I was playing Xbox Cloud and I was playing Injustice 2, I would notice that after a while, the character would stop being responsive. And that's because I wasn't able to communicate fast enough, or the connection wasn't stable enough for the control inputs on my controllers here to be able to transfer to the server and continue the game. Restarting G Cloud, restarting the Xbox Cloud system was pretty much the only solution, and it worked pretty well. So at the end of the day, who do I recommend this for? If you're looking for more of a local type of base experience, and of course something a little bit more powerful in the sense of, let's say, a desktop experience, or more of a desktop class processor experience in a more of a mobile experience, I still feel like what we get with the Steam Deck is definitely a more powerful experience. This is really kind of trying to bridge that experience between trying to run everything on your mobile phone or trying to get something that will run really good. It's very dedicated and of course has a much longer battery life, and it doesn't tax your system. So you're able to give this to your kid, to yourself when you're, let's say, traveling. Again, the fast internet is going to be a big thing. If you're trying to run things locally, it's not going to be as big of an issue. Just make sure that it's compatible with general controllers, not necessarily with like first-party controllers. Again, with PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile, they just don't work with every single controller out there. And trying to map it just for this and change the configuration from the G Cloud isn't really functional. So at the end of the day, this will work. This will do great if you're leveraging those services. If you like Xbox Game Pass or a cloud gaming service, GeForce Now, if you like to use Steam Link, absolutely fantastic, not a problem. If you want to download a few games that support general controllers, it's going to work great. If you want to watch content on this, it's going to work great. The limitation would still be basically is, does this make sense for somebody that's looking to be a good serious gamer? Again, based on the services and what you're trying to do, there are obviously other options as well. But I think that Logitech does have a very good combination. The price point is definitely very comparable to what you're able to get with this. They're not overpricing it and they're not underpricing it. So that's really going to be the best experience there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you very much for the support. Like and subscribe as usual. And of course, I'll see you in the next video.